proportion is measure, and the instrument or tool is earth, and geometry is earth, measuring. Therefore, I affirm that all men live by geometry. For all men in this world live by the works of their hands. I could give you many more proofs that geometry is the science by which all reasoning men live, but I refrain at this time because the writing of it would be too long a process. And now I will propose further into the matter. You should understand that among all crafts followed by man in this world, Masonry has the greatest renown and the largest share of the science of geometry, as is stated in history, such as the Bible, and in the Master of History, in the Polychronicon, a trustworthy chronicle, and in the histories that are called Beta or Betty, Day, Imagine Monday, Isidorus or Isidore of Seville's etymology, I'm thinking, Methodus, Bishop, and Martyr, and many others. It is said that Masonry is the chief part of geometry, as I think it may well be said. For it was the first one founded, as is stated in the Bible, in the first book, Genesis, in the 4th chapter. Moreover, all the learned authors named above agree to this, and some of them affirm in many openly and plainly, precisely as in Genesis in the Bible. In direct descent from Adam, in the 7th generation, there lived a man named Lamech, who had 2 wives named Ada and Zillah. By the first wife, Ada, he fathered 2 sons named Jobal and Jubal. The older son, Jabal, was the first man that ever discovered geometry and masonry, and he made houses, and is called in the Bible Pater Habiticum in Tentoris Atric Pastorum, that is to say, the father of all men who live in tents, that is dwelling houses. He was Cain's master mason and governor of all his works when he built the city of Enoch, which was the first city ever made, and was built by Cain, Adam's son, who gave it to his own son Enoch. He gave the city the name of his son and called it Enoch, when it is known as Ephraim or Ephraim, Ephraim. And at that place the science of geometry and masonry was first carried out and contrived as a science and as a craft. So we may well say that it is the first cause and foundation of all crafts and science. This man Jabal was also called Pater Pastorum, the father of shepherds. The Master of History says, and Bede, Day, Imagine, Monday, and the Polychronicon, and many others also say that he was the first one who partitioned lands in order that every man might know his own land and work on it for himself. He also divided flocks of sheep so that every man might know his own sheep, and so we may say that we that he was the inventor of that science. His brother Jabal, or Tubal, was the inventor of music and song, as Pythagoras is who Pythagoras is, states in the Polychronicon. And Isidore of Seville says the same thing. In his etymology, in the 6th book, he says that he was the first founder of music and song, and of the organ and trumpet, and he discovered the sciences of the sound of pounding of his brother Tubal Cain's hammers. Truly, as the Bible says in the 4th chapter of Genesis, Lamech's father, by his other wife Zillah, a son and daughter, and their names were Tubal Cain. That was the son, and the daughter was called Naamah, which is spelled Naamah. I'm not really good with names and pronunciation, so you have to forgive me. According to the Polychronicon, some men say that she was Noah's wife, but whether this was so or not, we will not affirm. You should understand that this son, Tubal Cain, was the founder of the smith's crafts and other handicrafts dealing with metals such as iron, brass, gold, and silver, as some learned writers say, and his sister Naamah discovered the crafts of weaving, for before that time no cloth was woven, but they spun yarn and knitted and made such clothing as they could. But because this woman Naamah invented the craft of weaving, it was called woman's craft. These 3 brothers knew that God would give vengeance for sin, either by fire or water. They were very concerned about what they could do to save the sciences they had discovered. They took counsel together and exercised all their wits. They said there were 2 kinds of stone of such virtue that the one would never burn, called marble, and the other called latris, latris would not sink in water. So they devised a plan to write all the sciences they had found on these 2 stones, in that if God took vengeance by fire, marble would not burn, and if God sent vengeance by water, the other would not drown. They asked their elder brother Jabal to make 2 pillars of these 2 stones, that is, of marble and of latris, and to write on the 2 pillars all the sciences and crafts which they had found, and he did so. Therefore, we may say that he was the wisest in science, for he first began and carried out their purpose before Noah's flood. Although, fortunately, knowing of the vengeance that God would send, the brothers did not know whether it would be by fire or water. They knew by a sort of prophecy that God would send one or the other, and therefore they wrote their sciences on the 2 pillars of stone. Some men say that they wrote on the stone all the 7 sciences, as they had it in mind that a vengeance would come. So it was that God did send vengeance, and there came such a flood that all the world was drowned, and everyone died except 8 persons. There were Nos, N-O-E-S, which is Noah, and his wife, and his 3 sons and their wives, from which sons all the world is descended. They were named in this manner, that Sem, S-E-M, which is Shem, S-H-E-M, and Cam, which is Ham, H-A-M, and Cam is C-A-M, and Japhet. This flood is called Noah's flood because he and his children were saved in it. Many years after the flood, according to the Chronicle, these two pillars were found, and the Polychronicon says that a great clerk named Pythagoras found one, and Hermes, the philosopher, found the other, and they taught the sciences that they found written on them. Every chronicle and history and many other writers, and the Bible in particular, relate the building of the Tower of Babylon. It is written in the Bible, Genesis chapter 10, how Ham, Noah's son, fathered Nimrod, or Nimrod. Nimrod is spelled N-E-M-B-R-O-T-H, and that's Nimrod, N-I-M-R-O-D, who grew to be a mighty man upon the earth and became strong like a giant. He was a king. He was a great king, and the beginning of his kingdom was the kingdom of Babylon proper, and Erech. I'm wondering if that's Erech, E-R-E-C-H, and Akkad. Yeah, I bet that's Erech. And Akkad, and Sameth, and the land of Shinar. This same Nimrod began the Tower of Babylon and taught his workmen the craft of masonry. He had with him many masons, more than 40,000, and he loved and shared other histories, and in part of the Bible witnesses in the 10th chapter, where it says the Asur, or Ashur, which is Asur, spelled A-S-S-U-R, or Ashur, A-S-S-H-U-R, who is closely related to Nimrod, went forth from the land of Shinar and built the city of Nineveh, or Nineveh, which is spelled N-U-N-Y-V-E, and Nineveh, which is N-I-N-E-V-E-H, and Plateus, and many more. For it is written, De terra illa egressus est Asur et edificavit Nineveh et Plateus civitatis et tale resin quoque inter Nineveh et Chale haec est civitas magna. It is only reasonable that we should painfully say how and in what manner the charges of the mason's craft were first founded, and who first gave it the name of masonry. You should know that it is stated in the written and the Polychronicon, and in Methodius, bishop and martyr, that Ashur, I'm betting that's Asher, yeah, because Nineveh, okay, that Asher, who was a worthy lord of Shinar, that's interesting, sent a message to Nimrod the king, asking him to send him masons and